Manchester United have just drawn 2-2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in what was truly a game of two halves. In the first half, United came out all guns blazing against a Tottenham team that had just reimbursed their fans for the tickets after being absolutely embarrassed by Newcastle in their last game. We looked really good on the ball. We were attacking with 5, 6, 7 players who were all interchanging positionally, and we basically just left Shaw, Lindelof, and Casemiro in the back. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that Tottenham fans in the stadium felt like another spanking was on the way, because that's what it was starting to look like. And then the second half comes around and Tottenham start growing into the game in the first 10 minutes with 4 shots on our goal, one of which was the goal from Porro. But still, United seemed to have control of the game because Bruno Fernandes had that insane chance where he nutmegged Romero and hit the crossbar. That shot from Bruno came in the 57th minute when we were a goal up and there were still 33 minutes left in that game. And until that shot, Spurs had 0.65 XG from 10 shots and had only created 2 big chances all game, including the one that Porro converted. And including that shot from Bruno in the 57th minute, United had 1.86 XG from 12 shots and had created 3 big chances, missing 2 of them. And then shortly after, Ten Hag took off 1 player from the starting 11, which completely changed the game for United because Spurs went on to dominate the next 20 minutes of the game, where they had 1.57 XG from 7 shots. They created 2 more big chances, one of which was the goal from Son, and the other one was the missed header by Eric Dyer. And more importantly, United completely lost control of the game and didn't have a single attempt on goal till the 84th minute. Personally, it was both shocking and disappointing to see Ten Hag make that decision in the 61st minute, and we definitely have to analyze it in this video, but as usual on the channel, we're not going to lose our minds over this one game. We're going to look at the tactics behind the positives and the negatives to understand where we go from here for the rest of the season. So as always, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy. And don't forget to turn on all notifications to never miss out on content just like this. So despite the disappointment we're all feeling as United fans from that result, it's important to remember that we looked spectacular in that first half. And Ten Hag actually played, in my personal opinion, his best football all season in that first half because of a couple of tactical tweaks he made here and there. So we started in our usual 4-2-3-1 but played in a 2-3-2-3 that looked like this. In this shape, you had the front 3 as usual with Rashford through the middle and Antony and Sancho high and wide on both sides. Then Bruno and Eriksen were playing as the 8s or the 10s in the inside spaces behind the front 3. Now normally, you'd have the striker in this system play as the target man, dropping mostly into central areas to link up the play and then spin in behind. And you'd have one of Bruno or Eriksen dropping a little deeper into the midfield to pick up the ball and help with ball progression, while the other drops more into central areas and helps create stuff in the final third. But today, there was a lot more attacking intent from United, as Rashford in the striker role was making those diagonal runs between the center backs to drop into the inside spaces over here, or to get into the wide areas and allow Sancho or Antony to cut inside and get into these areas here. And that as a result made more room for both Bruno and Eriksen to operate in and around the box, almost as the 2 strikers in this team. And in general, the link up in the wide areas was very fluid. At times, it was the winger plus the fullback plus the striker to make the overloads over here, while the other players tried to get inside the box, including Antony. And at other times, it was Eriksen dropping into these areas, Rashford would stay at the edge of the box, and these 3 would try to create that chance for these 3 over here. And Tottenham had no answer for this fluid movement because they were extremely passive throughout that first half. And as always, we have a clip here to show you exactly what I'm talking about. We start with Sancho receiving the ball on the left wing from Casemiro, and you can see him driving at the Tottenham back 3 of Romero, Dyer, and Longley. At the same time, notice how Eriksen, Bruno, and Rashford are the 3 United players that are advancing centrally. As Sancho drives forward, Rashford sees Romero get tight to Sancho, which means there is a relatively big gap in between these 2 center backs over here, which Rashford can exploit. So Rashford makes that diagonal run from in to out like we discussed on the tactical board. And I also want you guys to pay attention to the fullbacks over here because these guys are wider than their wingers. Normally, like we've talked about in several games gone by, both of these guys play as inverted wingers in the midfield, but today they were actually overlapping their wingers more often than not to make the pitch as wide as possible, and we'll discuss more about this shortly. So Rashford plays it back to Sancho at this point, and Tottenham has most of their players back behind the ball already, so the counter-attack opportunity is kind of over, meaning that United have to break them down from open play now. And here we have the opportunity to study why the fullbacks were wider than in previous games. When you have an overload on one side, you generally want the other side of your team to try to get into the box or at least stay at the edge of the box. Normally we have Bruno in the 10 role joining these players in the wide areas to create those overloads and put in crosses into the box. But today, Rashford was drifting out there, which means the chance creation opportunities from these wide areas were coming a little earlier than they normally do. Think about it for a second. Which player from our team can create an overload high up the pitch faster? The striker who starts further forward when you're attacking, or the midfielder who starts about 10 to 20 yards behind the striker? Obviously it's the striker, so repeatedly today we were creating early overloads out wide, which led to early chance creation opportunities inside the box. And as a result, we needed the midfielders to occupy the space that the striker actually vacated, and that's why you saw repeatedly Eriksen and Bruno both getting to the edge of the box, and you also saw Antony having to make that run into the box, which naturally meant that there was more space out wide for someone like Wan-Bissaka to exploit instead of being narrow like he normally does. As we play along here, Dalot gets the ball out wide and we see Eriksen making moves to get to the edge of the box while Bruno and Antony are already in the box like we just saw. So as the ball gets recycled back to Casemiro, we see Wan-Bissaka making that run out wide to make the pitch as wide as possible and force Tottenham to be less compact defensively. So you can see a lot of new things from Ten Hag's tactics in this one clip, and it gives us a potential sneak peek into how good we could actually be under this manager under the right circumstances. Look at this one picture here. We have 7 players that are basically in and around the box. And this type of movement has basically forced Tottenham's front 3 into being CDMs in this moment. Seriously. Tottenham gave us as much respect as they would give Pep's City side this season, and at times United actually did look like that City side in possession, especially in that first half. Next, we're going to dedicate a full segment to our midfield maestros, Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes, because these guys did some outrageous things in that first half that totally got me off my seat. So this is the 19th minute of the first half, and Lindelof gets the ball and passes it backwards to Shaw near the center circle. Look at how the front 3 of Tottenham are engaged in a coordinated press against us, which should in normal circumstances force United to go back to De Gea and relieve pressure off of the Tottenham back line. As Shaw gets a few more seconds on the ball, you can see that Son is really tight to Dalot over here, and Lindelof is kind of behind Shaw, so it's hard to pass it to him, which means Shaw can either go to De Gea behind him or he can pass it to Eriksen in the middle. But there are also 2 players near Eriksen over here, so this is potentially a dangerous pass. But Shaw ends up playing it anyways, and look at the game intelligence and spatial awareness of Eriksen here, because he plays an outrageous dinked pass over Casemiro and these 2 Tottenham players out to find Antony on the right wing. And in effect, he basically takes out this entire group of 5 Tottenham players, and United are straight through on the break. As Antony receives the ball, you can see how it's a 5v5 for United because of that one pass from Eriksen. And now Antony has all the time and space to drive inside towards the Tottenham goal. And that's exactly what he does. All of this space that you see in central midfield for the 4 United players happens because of that one pass from Eriksen. Honestly, take a bow, son. We sorely missed this kind of quality in the last 6 seasons against Ole and Mourinho. We'd always have one player perhaps in the midfield with this kind of quality to pick out a pass, but everyone else around them would be poor on the ball. I can think of Pogba alone under Mourinho. I can think of Bruno alone under Ole because Pogba was either out injured or the rest of the team was so crap that it didn't even matter. But for most of this season, we've had Eriksen and Bruno in the midfield, which has made a huge difference on our ability to control games. Next, let's look at another sublime pass from Eriksen in that first half. Here we see Antony dribbling up the pitch on a counterattack, and he checks left to see Eriksen in tons of space through the middle. As Antony dribbles forward a bit more and decides to actually play it to Eriksen, look at how much space Rashford is in up top. If Eriksen can somehow find Rashford here, he can easily get a shot off on goal and maybe even score it. As the ball comes towards Eriksen, he plays a first time blind pass over the top into Rashford's path. And this pass sets Rashford up for the one-on-one against Forster, but unfortunately the left-footed shot is straight at the keeper and nothing comes off it. But you guys see what I'm talking about here, right? Bruno doesn't need to be everything everywhere all at once when Eriksen is on the pitch, because he can pull strings in midfield while Bruno can be involved further forward, or he can get to the edge of the box himself while Bruno pulls the strings behind them. Honestly, I can't overstate how good Eriksen is and how valuable he is to this team. I really hope we keep him at the club for at least 2 or 3 more years, because I don't think there's another player like him available on the market at the moment, and definitely not available on a free transfer. Now, I was going to show you guys Bruno's assist for Rashford at the end of that first half, because he played a pass from inside the United half all the way across the pitch to get Rashford inside the Tottenham penalty box and score that goal. But you guys already know that Bruno does Bruno type things on the regular. And as United fans, you guys already appreciate Bruno for the midfield maestro that he is. So I'm going to leave that clip out of this video and just say this. Without Bruno Fernandes, we'd be in 10th place this season. Not quite as bad as Chelsea, but slightly better than them. And if you disagree with this take, you must be closing your eyes every time Bruno gets on the ball, because he is absolutely everything to this team. So for our last talking point, let's finish off the video by talking about the one substitution that cost Ten Hag 2 points in this game. So like we saw from the graphic that I showed you guys in the intro, Man United took only 5 shots after that Bruno shot hit the bar in the 57th minute, and only 3 shots after the 2 substitutions that Ten Hag made in the 61st minute. We've just spent most of the video so far talking about how great United looked in that first half, and also why Bruno and Eriksen are our midfield maestros who make things happen in this team. So why would Ten Hag take off Christian Eriksen in the 61st minute and replace him with Fred in this team? Someone explain that to me. As soon as Eriksen went off, we couldn't really get a touch of the ball. And every time we did get a touch, we'd lose the ball either in the defensive third or the middle third. Ball progression for United was absolutely dead from the 61st to the 85th minute, when Tottenham finally decided to shut up shop because they had gotten their second goal. And look, for those of you that are saying that Fred needs to be better with his passing, I agree with you, but Ten Hag knows that going into this game. It's not a surprise. And also, Casemiro's first touch, passing, and dribbling were absolutely non-existent today. But Ten Hag also knew about this watching those first 60 minutes. So why would you take off Eriksen so early in a game that we need to win to secure top 4? Spurs were there for the taking today, man, and had he kept on Eriksen for 10 or 15 more minutes, United could have easily scored maybe 1 or 2 more goals and really put our foots on throats to secure the 3 points. Now, I don't know if Eriksen was injured, because that would be Ten Hag's saving grace, but if he was thinking, let me save Eriksen for the Villa game, that's not the right way to approach it. Because Villa are the most informed team in the Premier League at the moment, and even with our best 11, we could lose to them at the weekend. So right now, we're in a situation where we drop 2 points in a very winnable game because you took Eriksen off too soon, and we might still go lose or draw against Villa at the weekend, which means we will only have 1 or 2 points from these 2 games instead of guaranteeing 3 points from today and then maybe looking at what we could do against Villa. Look, you guys know how highly I rate Ten Hag as a coach. He's basically overcome every challenge that's been thrown his way, and let's be honest, there's been many. But the game today, along with some other games this season, show me that Ten Hag is still adapting to the Premier League, and he will make more mistakes like these till the end of the season. Fortunately, there are 2 things that are working in his favor for now. 1, he has terrible squad depth. If Ten Hag has a better midfielder to come onto the pitch instead of Eriksen, we maintain control of that game and get that win. Number 2, we only really need 10 points from the remaining 7 games, because 70 points will most likely secure top 4 this season. Both Tottenham and Villa can only get to 69 points, Liverpool can only get to 71 points, and Brighton can only get to 73 points. And all 4 of these teams play against each other at least once till the end of the season, which means it's unlikely that any of them will secure maximum points. Let's see what happens. Definitely a disappointing result today, but we move. Let's get to the summer with hopefully another trophy and top 4, and then we can analyze the season as a whole. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.